always written stories about things that are so terrible. You'll run away so your brain won't remember.
So why did you come back?
I'm here for research.
What exactly, though, are you researching?
Danny, where are you? Answer me. This is not another sleepless night. Is it something more?
At the beginning of the movie, Stryker tells Snow that he needs his help retrieving one final and crucial item. He explains that it's a heavy crate containing something very old, so he must take care while moving it. Stryker instructs him to deliver the crate to his new home, the Marston house. Next, we see Snow's truck arriving at the Marston house. He asks his friend Hank to open the cellar. Hank complies, and together they open the truck to reveal the crate. As they begin moving the crate into the dark cellar, Hank accidentally bumps into a rack behind him, causing the crate to fall and break at one corner. Snow switches on a light, and they notice the crate is packed with dirt. Choosing to ignore this, they pick up the crate again and carry it to the back of the cellar. As they exit, some dirt spills from the broken corner. Suddenly, Snow hears faint whispering, someone saying, "Come closer." His eyes turn white, and he appears hypnotized. Meanwhile, the lid of the crate begins to open. Just then, Hank calls out to Snow, snapping him back to normal. Startled, Snow quickly runs away, shutting the cellar door behind him. In the darkness, we catch a glimpse of a haunting entity's face. We then see a young man named Ben gazing at the Marston house. Moments later, a police officer, Parkins, approaches and asks if he is lost. Ben replies, "I used to live around here." He explains that he is an author visiting the area for a bit of inspiration. Parkins leaves and we see Ben entering Jerusalem's lot. On his way, Ben stops at a real estate office. Upon entering, he notices a young woman named Susan reading his book, but doesn't realize it's written by him. Ben mentions that he's looking for a place to rent. Just then, her boss, Larry, appears and introduces himself. During their conversation, Ben mentions that he saw someone at the Marston house and asks if anyone is living there. Larry explains that the house had been vacant for 40 years, but was recently sold. When Larry asks for his name, Ben introduces himself as Ben Mears. Hearing this, Susan realizes the book she's reading was written by him. She quickly suggests a place for Ben to rent. After thanking her, Ben leaves. The scene then shifts to a school where a new student, Mark, is performing magic tricks for his classmates. Suddenly, a bully named Richie approaches and punches Mark hard. Mark stumbles but quickly gets back up. As Richie moves to attack again, Mark defends himself by pushing Richie and twisting his arm, causing Richie to cry out in pain. At that moment, a teacher, Mr. Burke, intervenes and puts an end to the fight. We then see Ben in the library, researching for his next book. Just then, Susan arrives with her mother. The librarian informs her that Ben is here and shares that Ben used to live in this town, but 20 years ago, his parents were in a fatal accident on Hallowell Road. After the tragedy, Ben left the area. He was only 9 years old at the time. As Susan prepares to leave, she tells Ben that she plans to visit the drive-in tonight. Ben smiles at her gesture. The scene then shifts to Mark's room, where Ralph is curiously exploring strange items around. Ralph asks him, "Aren't you afraid of Richie? What happens when he comes for you with the big kids?" Mark confidently replies, "If he comes at me again, I'll fight back." Running away makes it worse. Danny reminds Ralph that they should leave since it's getting dark, and Ralph is afraid of the dark. To help, Mark hands Ralph a harmonica and says, "If you blow into this, it will help with your breathing and calm you down." As Ralph and Danny head home, Stryker approaches them and offers them a ride. Sensing danger, Danny refuses and decides to take a safer route through the woods instead. While walking through the forest, Ralph casually plays the harmonica Mark gave him. Suddenly, Stryker appears from behind and kidnaps Ralph. Danny, panicked, screams Ralph's name. The scene cuts to Stryker, pulling Ralph out of the trunk of his car. He drags Ralph into the eerie Marston house. Stryker calls out, "Master Barlow, I, Stryker, your devoted servant, bring you a sacrifice." The candles in the room begin to extinguish one by one, plunging the space into darkness and silence. Through a small hole in the sack, Ralph catches a glimpse of Barlow. The monstrous figure looms closer. Stryker removes the sack, and Ralph screams in pure horror. The scene reaches its horrifying peak as Barlow savagely kills Ralph. A week later, we see Ralph's mother still desperately searching for her missing son. Meanwhile, Burke introduces himself to Ben and invites him to visit the school, suggesting that the kids would be thrilled to meet a real-life writer. The scene then shifts to Danny in his room, staring at Ralph's harmonica cover. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a harmonica playing faintly. Startled, he gets up and realizes the sound is coming from outside. Believing it might be Ralph, he ventures out to investigate. As Danny searches, he finds no one around, but then notices Ralph's harmonica lying on the ground. As he picks it up, a seesaw creaks and moves eerily on its own. In fear, Danny approaches the seesaw cautiously, and it moves again. Suddenly, he is pulled upwards. The next moment, we see Danny in his mother's room saying, "I feel sick." The scene shifts to a hospital where Danny has been admitted. After some time, Danny attempts to say something, and his mother realizes that he is thirsty. She quickly rushes to get water, but while she is away, Danny tears open a blood pouch. As she turns back, she screams in horror as she sees him drinking the blood before he collapses and dies. The scene shifts to Father and the gravedigger Mike. Father offers Mike a drink, which he accepts before leaving. Later, as Father performs Danny's funeral, we see Mike having breakfast. The scene transitions to night, and Mike wakes up, realizing he had fallen asleep after eating. He heads to Danny's grave and starts filling it with soil. Suddenly, he hears knocking from inside the coffin. The knocking becomes persistent, and Danny's muffled voice cries out, "Help, let me out!" Panicked, Mike rushes to open the coffin. When he does, he finds Danny lying peacefully inside. Startled and confused, he closes the coffin and continues burying it. Suddenly, Danny emerges from the grave. As Mike approaches the coffin, he finds it open and empty. Out of nowhere, Danny attacks him, and the scene abruptly cuts. Later, we see Burke in a bar, where he notices Mike sitting alone in a dimly lit corner. Concerned, Burke approaches him and asks, "Are you all right?" Mike replies, "I think I'm sick. I passed out after the funeral." Burke asks, "What else do you remember?" Mike says, "I remember eyes." Burke asks, "Whose eyes?" Mike tries to say a name but struggles, unable to get it out. He then says, "I'm scared. I don't want to go home." Since it's late, Burke offers him to stay at his place for the night. Later, at Burke's home, he notices bite marks on Mike's neck. Concerned, he asks him about the marks. Mike replies, he doesn't know about it. As Burke turns away to close the window, a faint, eerie glow appears in Mike's eyes, hinting at something unnatural. After a while Burke is in his living area, he hears a knock from upstairs and someone saying, "Let me in." He goes outside to check and sees someone entering through the window. Panicking, Burke goes to Ben for help and asks if he has a cross. He tells Ben and Susan to come with him to his house. At his house, Burke shows them the window where he saw the person enter. He says, "The power must have gone out. The lights were on when I left." The three of them go inside to check. As Burke approaches Mike, he realizes that Mike is dead. Ben examines Mike and notices no marks on his neck. Burke informs him that, according to belief, these marks disappear after death. The scene shifts to Mark sleeping in his bedroom. He wakes up to the sound of a knock and sees Danny outside the window. Mark gets up and closes the curtain, but Danny then appears at another window. He asks to be let in. Suddenly, Danny knocks, and as Mark looks at him, he becomes hypnotized. Mark opens the window, and Danny floats into the room, saying, "Mr. Barlow wants to meet you." As Danny gets closer, Mark presses across to his face, causing him to recoil. Mark quickly runs and shuts the window. Later, he begins researching vampires and concludes that in order to kill all the vampires, he must first kill Barlow. We then see Burke at home, hearing strange noises. When he gets up to investigate, he finds Mike standing in front. In shock, Burke picks up the cross and holds it out to Mike, causing him to fall back from its power. Mike gets up, but Burke again presents the cross, forcing Mike to float away from the room. Burke steps outside to investigate, cross in hand. Suddenly, Mike attacks him from behind, causing Burke to fall down the stairs with the cross landing far out of reach. Mike approaches him, but Burke manages to grab the cross and holds it up, causing Mike to fly away from the house with great force. The next morning, a nurse informs Dr. Cody that Danny's mother was found dead, and her body is at Green's mortuary. Dr. Cody asks, Is Mike's body still downstairs? The scene then cuts to the mortuary, where Dr. Cody discovers that Mike's body is missing. We then see Dr. Cody going to Burke's house, where she finds him injured and lying on the floor. She informs him about Danny's mother's death and the missing body of Mike. Burke then tells Ben, Susan, and Dr. Cody that he believes Ralph was a sacrifice for Barlow's arrival, and that Mike made it seem like he was attacked after Danny's funeral. Ben suggests exhuming Danny to check if he is still dead. Dr. Cody refuses, stating that she doesn't believe in all of this, especially based on Mike's missing body. Burke responds, "He's missing because he attacked me last night. He's a vampire." Dr. Cody proposes that instead of exhuming Danny, they should go to Danny's mother, Marjorie's body, which is at Green's mortuary, and wait until night, as Maury told her that she died the same way Danny did. Burke says, "You three should go. I need to do some research." The next morning, we see Mark heading to the Marston house. He opens the cellar door and steps inside. As he examines the area, Burke suddenly appears from behind. Burke tells him to leave, warning that he has no idea what he's getting himself into. Mark responds that he knows they are vampires. Just then, someone locks the cellar door from the outside. Burke lights a candle and realizes there is no other exit from the cellar. At that moment, Barlow's hand emerges from the coffin. Burke helps Mark climb up to the door, but suddenly the candle is blown out. As Mark turns on the light, Barlow attacks Burke, and Straker pulls Mark away. We then see Ben, Susan, and Dr. Cody at the mortuary with Marjorie's dead body. Susan nervously asks, "What if she rises? How will we protect ourselves?" Just as Dr. Cody picks up a jar, Marjorie's slipper falls, and then her hand moves. Dr. Cody quickly tries to make a cross using wooden sticks, but she realizes it isn't working. Susan suggests binding it with tape, and Dr. Cody replies that the tape is in her bag. Suddenly, the body sits up and gets down from the stretcher. To activate the cross, Susan tells Ben to bless it. Ben begins reciting a prayer, and as he does, the cross begins to glow. Ben then holds the cross up. She screams, but just then the cross breaks, and she attacks Dr. Cody. Marjorie tries to bite Dr. Cody, but in her defense, Dr. Cody stabs Marjorie in the face with a knife, only to realize there is no blood. Marjorie says there will be no one left and bites Dr. Cody on the neck. At that moment, Susan presses the cross against Marjorie's back, causing her to scream and vanish into the air. Dr. Cody then instructs Ben and Susan to give her a rabies shot, so she doesn't turn into a vampire. After receiving the shot, Dr. Cody asks Ben to check with the cross to see if she's become a vampire. When the cross has no effect, she breathes a sigh of relief, knowing she hasn't turned. Ben suggests they inform Father Callahan about everything, as he might be the right person to help. He then tells them to find Burke and let him know that he was right. When they reach Burke's house, they notice his vampires on the roof. He realizes they're too late, the vampires have already taken Burke. With that, they quickly leave the scene. Next, we see Mark hanging upside down. Mark manages to untie himself. Just as Straker enters the room, Mark hits him hard with a rod, ultimately killing him. The scene then shifts to a church, where Ben, Susan, and Dr. Cody are recounting the events to Father Callahan. Suddenly, Mark enters and informs them that Burke has become a vampire. He then fills a bottle with holy water and explains that Barlow is the head vampire. Mark also reveals that he killed Barlow's servant, Straker. Hearing this, Father Callahan instructs Mark to take them to the place where Straker was killed. They all arrive at the Marston house. As they enter and begin exploring, a door opens on its own. They proceed cautiously, searching the eerie interior. Suddenly, they hear strange noises. Ben grabs a stake from Mark's bag. As he shines his flashlight around, bottles begin to rattle. Suddenly, Burke appears. Ben lunges at him with the stake, but misses his heart. They all panic and rush toward the exit. Burke screams, "Barlow is coming for you and your families tonight." Just then, Father and Dr. Cody opens the cellar's door, and sunlight strikes Burke's hands, burning them. Ben then thrusts the stake into Burke's heart. They all rush out of the house, panicked. Together, they decide to take their family members to the church for safety, knowing Barlow will come for them that night. Father agrees to accompany Mark to convince his parents, while Susan decides to fetch her mother. Ben volunteers to go with Susan and instructs Dr. Cody to inform Parkins, the police officer, about the situation. Father Callahan emphasizes the importance of getting everyone to the church before sunset. With their plan set, they quickly disperse to carry out their tasks. Dr. Cody arrives at Parkins' house, only to find him locking his door. Parkins, looking uneasy, says he doesn't want to hear about it. Dr. Cody asks, "Hear about what?" Parkins replies, "Vampires," he continues. "I'm leaving this town, and you should too," and drives away. The scene then shifts to Susan's house. Susan tells her mother they need to leave immediately. When her mother notices Ben, she coldly asks him to leave. As Ben steps outside, Susan's mother turns to her and says, "I met a man. He promised to take care of us. All he asked in return was for me to serve and protect him during the day while he sleeps." Shocked, Susan asks, "Who?" Her mother replies, "Barlow." Just then, a vampire attacks Susan. Ben rushes back inside and grabs Susan to protect her. Her mother tries to stop him, but Ben manages to escape with Susan. The scene shifts to Mark trying to convince his parents to leave, with Father Callahan also attempting to persuade them. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Mark's father goes to open it, but as he does, the cross in Father Callahan's hand begins to glow. Alarmed, the father tries to stop him. Just then, Barlow attacks Mark's mother. Father Callahan raises the cross to ward him off, but it has no effect. Meanwhile, another vampire attacks Mark's father. In the chaos, Father Callahan shouts for Mark to run, while confronting Barlow with the cross, declaring, "I am a priest." Barlow sneers. "Are you?" The cross abruptly stops glowing. He moves towards Father, and the scene cuts to Mark fleeing to his treehouse. As Mark climbs up, he hears strange noises. Once inside, he frantically closes all the windows. He slams the trapdoor shut and sits in fear. Outside, the eerie sounds of vampires grow louder, and the camera reveals multiple vampires surrounding the treehouse. We then see Ben taking Susan to the church, where he urgently screams at Dr. Cody to administer the rabies shot. Susan is becoming uncontrollable, screaming wildly. Dr. Cody says, "It's too late for her," she adds. "There's only one way to help her," and pulls a stake from her bag. Ben refuses, but just then, Susan hits him and runs away. Ben chases her down the road as Dr. Cody warns, "It's not safe." Suddenly, Ben is confronted by a group of vampires. He rushes toward the church, and as Dr. Cody tosses him the stake, Mike lifts him in the air. After a moment, they fall, and we see that Ben has killed Mike. Dr. Cody arrives with a cross and helps Ben enter the church safely. As they safely enter the church, Parkin's lifeless body is hurled with great force through a window. The scene shifts to an eerie stillness as Salem's lot appears desolate and silent. We then see Ben and Dr. Cody in Mark's house, where they discover a note left by Mark. The note reads, "I am going to kill Barlow." Then we see Ben and Dr. Cody finds him. Ben tells Mark to come with him to a safe place. Mark denies and says we need to fight back. Just then, Ben noticed that all the cars from the lot is missing. They all arrive at the drive-in, suspecting that everyone is hiding there. Ben notices Susan's car, checks the trunk, and finds Susan inside. Dr. Cody urges Ben to kill her, but he refuses. She offers to do it herself, saying it would be easier that way. Reluctantly, Ben agrees. As Dr. Cody prepares to kill Susan, a gunshot rings out. Ben quickly shuts the trunk and turns to see Susan's mother holding a gun. She sneers. "Barlow told me you'd come for her," and begins firing at Ben. Mark goes beneath a car as the sun sets behind the movie screen. Suddenly, vampires start emerging from the trunks of cars, terrifying Ben. Amid the chaos and Susan's mother's relentless shooting, Ben desperately tries to escape. Meanwhile, Mark realizes that the movie screen is blocking the remaining sunlight. As vampires swarm Ben, attempting to bite him, Mark drives a car into the base of the screen, toppling it. The falling screen allows sunlight to flood the area, instantly incinerating the vampires in a fiery blaze. At that moment, Susan's mother starts shooting again. Suddenly, Mark arrives and rams her with a car, killing her. Ben remarks, "The sun is almost down. This is going to be our last chance to kill Barlow." Mark responds, "There must be a place big enough to hide a coffin." He then notices a truck nearby. They open it and finds the coffin inside. They pull it out and try to open it, but fail. Ben goes off to find something to pry it open. Meanwhile, the sun continues to set. Despite their efforts, they can't open it. As the sun dips below the horizon, they manage to open it, and Barlow grabs the opening tool from inside. Suddenly, the coffin explodes, knocking both of them backward. They quickly hide and peek outside through a window. Just then, Susan attacks Ben from behind, trying to bite him. A fierce fight ensues between the two. Meanwhile, Mark spots Barlow standing at a height. Terrified, he runs away and hides in a shed. On the other side, Ben manages to kill Susan by driving a stake through her heart, ending her life. Mark then turns on the car lights around him. Moments later, Barlow attempts to grab him and, after a struggle, finally catches him. Mark witnesses Barlow's terrifying face screaming at him, which leaves him petrified. In a desperate move, Ben attacks Barlow with a rod. He pulls back the rod and we see Ben standing behind him. Ben follows up by brutally impaling him in the chest with the rod, ultimately killing him. Then we see Ben and Mark leaving the place and movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.